Capital Games. I'm the Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
Today, Xbox and Bethesda had their Developer Direct presentation today. Again, terrible name. They need to come up with something else. But anyway, aside from that, they said in advance what the games were going to be, and for the most part, they stuck to that. They had one surprise, but we'll get to that first. I think let's start overall first. What were you expecting before this Direct came by? What were you expecting to see?
Honestly, I was just expecting just something real cut and hey, here's how far in development our games are. Here's maybe a vertical slice of just how the gameplay and mechanics work, and that was really the most of my expectations.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't expecting surprises. Some people were expecting Starfield would be here. I did not think that was going to happen.
Especially with the fact that they laid out all the cards right in front. They weren't going to do any sort of surprises, except for one, but we'll get to that one because there's a bit of a story behind it.
Right. So why don't we get into what was announced and what was talked about in the Direct? And the first thing that was announced, or not announced, but was shown off in some detail, was Minecraft Legends. This looks to be, when we were discussing this game during the stream, I said RTS, and I don't think that's quite right. This reminds me of, remember Brutal Legend?
Yeah.
This kind of reminds me of that, but I don't think that's entirely a one-to-one comparison. But this kind of reminds me of that, but I guess with a competitive mode inside of it as well. But that's what it kind of reminded me of. Minecraft Legends is basically, they take Minecraft, turn it into an RTS-like, with some AI mechanics where you can control what your AI partners do to a certain extent. I guess that's the best way.
And then there was also one of the things that they mentioned was being able to recruit mobs of enemies and stuff like that, and basically sick the mobs of enemies on like your enemy's base and everything. Because they were talking about this one archer mob that one of the developers was like, oh yeah, we discovered how effective this like archer NPC mob is, that just if you take like a group of 40 to 60 of them to a base that's got like a bunch of base defense turrets, then they shred them. So we're constantly discovering new things. So I know that was one aspect that they definitely talked about, just the ability to just sort of recruit enemy mobs to do your dirty work for you.
Yeah. It looked interesting, and it looked like something I would get into, since I kind of like RTS games, and I definitely like strategy games. The question I had in the stream with you, and I want to reiterate, is basically, why are they putting this in the Minecraft engine except to get younger kids to give this game a shot? Because the game that it looks like, I don't think will really cater to the Minecraft crowd, except for the whole building bases thing. But in that, the base building is very streamlined, it looks like. So I'm not entirely sure who this audience is for, because if you're going for the Minecraft crowd, I don't think it's gonna reach them very well. They're gonna look at it and goes, okay, that's neat, whatever, next. Which is kind of what happened with Minecraft Dungeons, I believe. We'll get into that in a little bit. But who do you think this is for, and who do you think they're going for in this?
Honestly, I'm still sort of struggling with that question, even now after a couple of hours have passed. Because, one of the thoughts I had in my head was maybe like a family that's really, really deep into Minecraft. Maybe you've got like an older dad and maybe his like younger daughter or his younger son, or maybe you've got an older mother with her kids or something. Big Minecraft fans, but maybe the parent was a big RTS fan or something like that. Maybe it could be like something for a few generations of family to kind of get together and sort of merge interests, Minecraft with real-time strategy with a PvP element in it. But I think, honestly, kind of like what I'd commented in our discussion when the stream was going on, it's really just going to be hard to find a balance on pleasing the target audience, because if you're trying to please the RTS audience, it's got to have a little bit of complexity, or the RTS audience is just going to get bored of it and go, okay, well, this was cute, but there's so little complexity. This isn't really worth my time to play and really dive into. But if it's not Minecrafty enough, then you might end up losing the children as an audience base, because they'll just be like, okay, well, not really too into the building elaborate castles thing, and also having to fend off attacks from enemy players and wild mobs. Sorry, this ain't for me.
Yeah.
It's just something I don't know how they're going to find a balance with it.
I looked up sales numbers for Minecraft Dungeons before we got on the stream here. I was surprised by the amount of players that played the game. They boast they have 10 million players over 10 million who played Minecraft Dungeons. This is also a Game Pass game, so is Minecraft Legends. From what I have read and what I've seen of people who have played Minecraft Dungeons is that they played it, it's competent, but it's too kiddie for me, or it's not in-depth enough where it would steer me away from playing Diablo or something else for a long period of time. And then on the other hand, I have anecdotal experience as well with my nephew, who tried Minecraft Dungeons and played it for a little bit, liked it, but didn't play it long. It didn't capture him to play it longer than, I guess, maybe 5 or 6 hours. Because I actually was like, hey, you like Minecraft, you might like this. He gave it a shot, he played a little bit, and then it just got bored of it. I guess my question is, what they're trying to do here is trying to get that audience into different types of games. If this is an RTS, that's another thing too I think we should be clear on. We're not sure if this is an RTS or not. This may not be but it does have those qualities in it. I guess the only thing they're trying to do here is use Minecraft as a bridge to other games that they're having, like Age of Empires or something along those lines. Hopefully get kids or younger gamers or casual gamers into that type of genre. But again, RTS is not something that, it's not really a game that has a lot of popularity anymore. So it's one that I'm not sure of why they're going this route, except just to have a Minecraft of a different type of game.
Likely it's probably just trying to expand the brand and just kind of dive it into different genres in hopes of maybe potentially just maybe trying to capture a new audience that may not have considered Minecraft in a different genre. But that's really the only thing I can surmise out of this.
Like, they had Minecraft story mode. I remember that. And that didn't work out very well. In fact, that game is unavailable to play at this point if you haven't bought it already. And then there was Dungeons, which came out and kind of left in a whimper. Apparently they had 10 million players, but I'm really curious as to who exactly bought the game, to be completely honest. I wonder if expanding upon the Minecraft brand is really a sound strategy, and maybe not just expanding Minecraft would be the better thing to do. Like, if you're gonna have something like this, like in Minecraft Legends, why not implement that kind of game into Minecraft instead of just making it a separate thing? Is my question on that. Except for, I guess you're looking at that and go, well, you can get people to spend $60 on the game. That's why you do it. Fine. Yeah,
that, or maybe it's something with the engines or whatever. Just the engine in the main Minecraft game may not facilitate this sort of RTS-like gameplay.
That's probably true too. I will be honest, I'm curious about it, and I will probably give it a shot when it gets on Game Pass. I just don't know if I can look at that and convince, like, my nephew, for example, to say, hey, give this a shot. It's Minecraft, but it's RTS. That's a pretty hard sell, I think. But I guess we would have to play it to really gauge what the game really is. And I think that, is the problem I'm having right now, because I'm not entirely sure what this game is at this point. So, looks interesting, but yeah, I don't know where else to go with it.
Since I have Game Pass, I'll probably give it a shot just to kind of check it out and see what it's about. I'm not the biggest RTS nerd these days, so I'm probably not going to be any good at it, especially with the fact that it's going to be focused on a more PvPvE sort of thing going on with it. So yeah, I can already see myself just losing matches because just don't know how to prioritize building certain things for the base, or which mobs to go for first to tame and start sicking on enemy bases.
Overall, I mean, again, this is bearing in mind the game is good. When we talk about what our thoughts of how it will sell or anything, this is based on if the game is good. If the game is bad, of course, it probably will not make that much sales. I think it also being on Game Pass, it's gonna really eat up a lot of the sales that it would actually get. Depending on if the game is good and it's engaging or not, I still see a very niche audience getting into this. And that's also if they update it a lot. If it's an RTS like we're thinking, RTSs usually have their main game and then 2 years later an expansion pack. I don't think, unless that multiplayer thing is really robust, I don't think it's going to have that much staying power.
Definitely curious to how this will land, because I think if it lands pretty solidly, then it may be yet another success story for Microsoft to put on their scoreboard. But my concern is just they're trying to sort of get themselves into a really, really tough set genre, and they're trying to make Minecraft sort of the gateway drug to get into the RTS genre. And yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see if they stick the landing or if it doesn't land as solidly as they hope.
So let's move forward with the surprise game. Tango Gameworks was in the stream, which I think surprised both of us because we weren't expecting them to be there. Unless it were they talked about as being there when they announced this? Because I don't remember that being the case.
No.
Okay.
That's why when the presentation said we have one surprise announcement, and then you had a big old teaser screen that was blocked off with the words redacted on it. It was just like, okay, interesting. What in the world is Tango Gameworks bringing? And this was a bit curious, especially because of the fact that I forget if it was last year in 2022 or if it was in 2021, but I remember Shinji Mikami, the lead over at Tango Gameworks, I remember him saying that he wanted to branch Tango to do more than just horror games, because he felt that the studio was capable of doing more than just being a horror game studio, even though that's kind of what they built their chops on. So I know he sort of made a big statement of I want to prove that our studio can do more than just horror games. And if I remember, the statement kind of closed out with, we have something in the works, but we just can't discuss it right now until we feel it's a little bit more on solid ground. So please stay tuned when we're ready to announce what we have planned ahead. So I guess today was the day.
Yeah. Tango Gameworks announced Hi-Fi Rush, which is a rhythm-based character action game. Is that the best way to put it?
It feels like Devil May Cry with a rhythm mechanic on it. Mm-hmm. So this was interesting, mostly because of the fact that just one of the things that they talked about was apparently you don't have to be good at rhythm games to play this, but if you are, then hitting attacks and movements on the beats will give you bonuses.
Okay, because that was the one thing that was like, ooh, I don't know if this is for me, because I'm terrible at rhythm games. So when I saw that it was rhythm-based, I was like, uh-oh, that might not work for me. Before we get into the mechanics, the first thing that really stood out to me was the animation and the way the game looks. The animation is really good looking, and it really differentiated itself from other Tango Gameworks games, because usually the Tango Gameworks games are dark, brooding, and in the case of Ghostwire, where it is colorful, it's still in a disturbing light, whereas this is very vibrant. It has a lot of great animation to it. It's very expressive. I definitely dug the visual aspects of the game itself.
It's kind of neat that they're going with the self-shaded angle, mostly because of the fact that just right now the current meta for game development now has been just, we got to go hyper realistic. We got to have just visuals that just melt everyone's face off, and that's that's just been sort of the direction where game development is going. And then here we have just a game that's just full of color, full of just richness, and it's just an absolute treat to see. And if it's a good game, then this may be potentially a future classic because it may age very gracefully. It almost kind of brings to mind like when Wind Waker came out on GameCube, when just everyone just kind of dismissed it. Oh God, it's kitty ass looking animation. This is going to be garbage. And then here we are many years later. Wind Waker got the Wii U treatment and brought into the HD realm, and it still looks great in HD. So yeah, if this one's yet another game that's got a very solid foundation and an absolute treat to play, then who knows, this could potentially become a future classic.
You think Hi-Fi Rush will be a future classic? Really?
Possibly, but as said, I haven't had a chance to dive into the game. I actually just pulled down the install, so we'll have to see.
I think what this looks like an interesting game. The kick of it is it's available now, so you can play it right now on Game Pass and Steam. It's $30, correct?
Yeah, and I think it's also available on the Epic Store, maybe.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
So for PC, it's available on Steam, the Epic Store, and the Microsoft Store. And then it's available on the Xbox Series S and X consoles.
Okay.
And the price point's really good. It's $30.
Yes, absolutely. So the price is attractive. The game looks good. This was a stealth release, so reviews are not a thing with this unless reviewers got this in advance, which might be a possibility, might not be. So that is interesting.
The other thing I thought was interesting is the game does feature some licensed music in it.
Yes.
The artists that they mentioned that were on Hi-Fi Rush were Nine Inch Nails, The Black Keys, Prodigy, The Joy Formidable, Number Girl, Wolfgang Gartner, and Zwan.
I don't know half of them, but yeah. But the ones I do know are pretty impressive. But yeah, like this looks interesting, and character action games sell okay if they're part of a brand that people recognize. Other than that, it's a wait for reviews kind of thing. But the visual style and what it's going for could garner some decent sales. But I think a lot of people will give this a shot. I think at the very least, which I think is a good thing for Tango Gameworks especially. So I think this will be a positive thing for them, unless the game turns out to not be very good.
Yeah, I think we'll soon find out whether or not it's good. I know personally, I'll probably either check it out sometime tonight or maybe tomorrow.
Okay, so why don't we move on to the next thing that they showed off, which is Forza Motorsport. Basically, what we were hoping for in this, because we're both fans of this series, what we were hoping for was more in-depth talk about what the game was going to be like, what the single player was going to be like. But instead, they went the car porn route, which is basically talk about the lighting, the colors, the chip paint, the dust in the crevices, and the stuff in the car and stuff like that. Which, I gotta be honest, dude, those are cool and all, but from my experience, you only see that if you play the replays of the game, of your races, and I almost never check the replays. So, to me, this was kind of pointless. What do you think?
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed that they just went so heavy into look at all the shiny graphical stuff we're doing. And for me, it was just like, okay, well, that's neat. You're kind of chasing the wrong crowd right now, especially because, a lot of the people who were more focused on graphics were the GT7 crowd, and really the only points that you have against the Gran Turismo 7 crowd is, hey, we can do ray tracing at 4K 60 FPS. That's, in my opinion, literally the only point, because I think the ray tracing mode on Gran Turismo 7 is very, very limited. I have to try to remember the specifics, but I know that you have to put it into like resolution mode, and even then the frame rate is like capped at 30 frames per second. And then I forget if there's a hard cap on the resolution or something. I'd have to try to remember, but it was just like, okay, well, just kind of cute that you guys are talking about the graphic stuff, but a lot of people are more wondering if the single player is going to be extremely grindy and full of sort of online FOMO, kind of like what we're seeing with Forza Horizon 5 right now, or is it going to be just kind of methodical, and in a sense that it almost kind of goes back to like the days of Forza Motorsport 4.
My thought after the stream and thinking about Forza Motorsport was, what if they had something like the new Gran Turismo had, and then when they realized everyone hated it, they had to go to the drawing board again and redo it? At this point, if it's coming this year, which is what they're saying, they had no firm date, but it's coming this year, which to me sounds like fall, to be absolutely honest. At this point, you would want to talk about something regarding gameplay at this point, because everyone knows, like Forza and Gran Turismo, when they talk about graphics and how the cars look, it's kind of like a foregone conclusion. Like, yeah, of course. You guys have been doing this for so long. We expect that. It would be kind of it's pointless at this point to dedicate a stream or a trailer or whatever on the looks, because yes, we know that's what you do, that's what we expect. If it isn't that way, then why bother? What we care about is the gameplay aspect. What is single player, multiplayer going to be like? I really wonder if because of what happened with Gran Turismo, that they may have had to redo everything to do that. That's the only thought I have on this, because I was pretty disappointed they showed next to nothing when it came to gameplay. But what do you think? Why do you think they didn't show any kind of gameplay at all?
Honestly, it's going to be hard to say. I am definitely with you that maybe just seeing the backlash to just how short the campaign mode in Gran Turismo 7 was maybe spooked them. And maybe they were just like, whoa, shit. People didn't like the short gameplay mode, and, just we were building Forza Motorsport to be, multiplayer centric, and just have the single player mode be a glorified tutorial before people get online. Okay, shit. Get back to the drawing board. We gotta really beef up the single player stuff, or we might have a whole bunch of people who will not be interested in playing this. So that's certainly a plausible reason, but yeah, I'm just really curious on just why they were real gun shy to really talk about the gameplay and everything.
Now, they may wait until E3 to show that off, which, fine. That might be the case. But at this point, Forza has been delayed a bunch, and people are kind of worried about the development and what's been going on with Forza Motorsport. So I would have thought that if you're going to show it off, you want to show off as much as possible, just to see, like, hey, we're good now. But this does not quell that at all, I think. I mean, the people who are into the graphical stuff are going to be excited, and the things that they've talked about, I think, excited you, specifically the fact where they can have the type of noises that come from different engines are distinct to the engines and the parts that are in the car itself. I think that excited you to a certain extent. Those are interesting, but I'm not that type of racing guy. I'm not that type of car guy. I honestly don't care. You can have somebody going and I would be just fine. I'm like, okay, cool. I guess if cars sound like, I guess. And I'd be just fine. The fact they just went that route and nowhere near gameplay is pretty disappointing. So
yeah, even on the graphical showcase stuff, there was a little bit of disappointment from me, and that was mostly with regards to the aerodynamic parts, because in that speech of we've gone like into much more detail on all the custom parts that you can install into your cars and stuff like that, and in one of the shots there was the same Forza Motorsport performance wing that's been in the game since Forza Motorsport 3 even. And there's just like, really guys, really? You just wanted to show off that old wing that has been on the butt end of just about every single hyper-tuned car in the Forza Motorsport series forever. You didn't want to show, I don't know, some really cool licensed specialty wings from some of the aerodynamic part companies. Guys, this is not how to win people over to say, oh, well, we've gone to town with all the custom parts you can add. That's not really a good look, guys.
I mean, I'm gonna play the game when it comes out. I know I am, but I'm really now getting kind of worried as to the gameplay aspects.
I'm going to check it out just out of curiosity like I usually do, but I think really the bigger part that I'm just worried about is them going into the FOMO thing real hard, kind of like with Forza Horizon 5 right now. Mostly because just that's the FOMO stuff in Horizon 5 is actually the big reason I sort of dropped off of playing it after it came out, because it was just constant, hey, this week we've got this one limited time offer car, but you have to grind out X number of events to do it, and you have 1 week to get this car, and after that it gets thrown back into the lockup vault, and either you can try your hand at the auction house to get this car, or you can pray and hope to God we decide to bring this car out of the vault for you to earn again. And some of the challenges that were set up either were really fun but paid absolute garbage in the Forzathon points to buy the weekly bonus car, or it would be locked under the number of merit points of some of the events that you would have to complete for the weekly Forzathon. And some of the events that were extremely fun would maybe give you like 2 points out of the 60 points you needed to earn that car. So you're having to grind through all the events, and then you'd have like something like, hey, would you like 5 points on your weekly Forzathon event list scoreboard? And you're just like, yeah, because I need to get these points really friggin' quick. Oh, well, you can get 5 points if you play the multiplayer tag mode, but you only get the points if your team wins.
Ugh.
And you're just like, oh god, no. So that's really what I'm most worried about for Forza Motorsport, because if it's just going to be nothing more but FOMO City, then yeah, I'll probably just play it on Game Pass and go, okay, that was nice, moving on.
So let's move on to the next thing that was shown off, and that is Elder Scrolls Online Necrom. I often forget this is still running, but I'm also not an MMO fan. So when this showed up, it was the same thing happens to me every time a new expansion comes out, is I look at it and go, yeah, that does look cool. I should play that again. And then I play it again for about maybe an hour or two and go, yeah, I remember now why I stopped playing it, and then never play it again until eventually the same thing happens over again. Not that I think Elder Scrolls Online is bad. It's just at this point, like, I think we talked about it on stream too. It takes a lot for you to get into the game and to feel, I guess, powerful at in certain spots. And I never get to that point as much as I play it. So, yeah. I mean, what are your thoughts on Necrom and Elder Scrolls Online right now?
Lore-wise, it seems neat, because apparently they're going back to Morrowind, but in particular, this one part of Morrowind that was featured in one of Bethesda's old games dating back to 1994, apparently. So, the way I saw it was, man, anyone who's really into the Elder Scrolls lore, they're probably going to love this, because going back to a area that hasn't even been visited by any of the modern games, and the last mention of this area was back in 1994. This is probably going to be really interesting for the lore nerds out there. It just kind of looks like Elder Scrolls Online. Unfortunately, I don't have any hard experience with it, except for maybe about five or so years ago when I played it, and that was back, I think, when they just made the transition to go free to play. It was cool, but man, oh man, back then, just Bethesda really kept sort of bugging you as the player to subscribe to the ESO premium service, where you'd get like all sorts of perks and stuff, and then you'd also get like a free stipend of the cash currency once a month to go spend it in the cash shop and stuff like that. I think that there were a few things back then that sort of hampered your progress, and the game would always kind of go, hey, if you just bought a couple packs of crowns, then you could buy a whole bunch of stuff from the cash shop that would, make your gameplay a little bit more pleasant. So, just you should think about, throwing some crowns in the shop, or I don't know, just subscribe to the ESO premium service and get your monthly stipend of crowns and start throwing it at things that'll make your life easier in ESO.
I do agree that the game pushes you to do that subscription part, and which is kind of what turned me off, because when I played it, I just wasn't interested in doing that at all from that aspect. But the game is solid. It is pretty good, and it does remind me of playing Morrowind and playing Oblivion and Skyrim to a certain extent. I guess at this point, I just want a new Elder Scrolls, but I know this is supposed to supplant that and keep me satiated until they do that in 2029. I wonder, I guess this would be a conversation to have with somebody who's playing ESO. I wonder if they are just going to start making these expansions for people who are just playing it. And if that's the case, why don't they just do what the Old Republic does and just cater everything to that core audience? Because I think at this point, if they were going to go for new players, they would have done something significant by now. But they haven't done that, I think, at least. So I don't really know, to be completely, like with you. I've had a little bit of experience, but not a whole lot to where I think I could give a definitive review or anything on it. But to me, it just seems like this is a game that you dedicate a whole stream to that audience and keep it there. I don't understand why they keep trying to get more people into this game when really, I don't think it's meant to have a big audience. I think this is supposed to be a niche game at this point.
I think it's more just they're hoping maybe there was someone out there who had like a particular Elder Scrolls game that was a favorite of theirs, and just hoping that they see one of the expansions or one of the story campaigns that goes into a region that they might be really interested in. People who might be really into the Khajiits. Maybe the announcement for the Elsewhere expansion was exciting for them because that's the land of the Khajiits. So that's really the only thing I can think of on why they try to broadly advertise Elder Scrolls Online. Just something that's maybe just kind of a, hey, are you a Elder Scrolls nerd to a particular set of lore or a particular part of the world of Tamriel? Then check out this new expansion. We go into this part of the world of Tamriel, or we go really deep into the story about the background of the Dark Brotherhood. I guess it's just maybe them trying to see if they can kind of snare somebody with just one piece of lore, and then once they've got them, then the player goes, oh man, I think this game's kind of cool. Okay, I guess I'll stick around. So that's really my speculation on the matter.
I could see I could see why you'd think that. I guess my question is, are there enough people who are like that have that affinity for that lore? Because the thing that made Elder Scrolls, to me at least, seem interesting was not the story and the lore and the characters. I thought that was the weakest part of the entire game series. It was the gameplay and being able to do whatever you want while you're doing it, while you're playing. Like the going through all the areas, finding all these weird interstitial things that are happening that you were probably not meant to see. Like those stuff like that. Because when I think Skyrim, I don't think story. I think the story is kind of bad, actually. I think of, I walked down this area to do something, I forgot what it was, and all of a sudden this dragon popped out of nowhere and I had to fight this dragon. And it's those things that I think that are most interesting to, just not me, but I think to the most part for more gamers. I just don't think that there is that kind of, I don't think there is that much people who are into that lore. I might be wrong. But then I guess the other question I have is, okay, so they're interested in the Necrom expansion. Do they get access to it right away, or do they have to go through all the levels and all the other places to get there. So if that is the case, that's a huge barrier. So I think at this point, you just cater this to that audience, and that is it. And milk that audience for all it's worth. Like, again, let's say someone's interested in the Necrom expansion. Are you going to say, oh, yeah, you can get through that. You just have to go through all 60 levels of, you have to be level 60, go through all the other expansions, and go through all the other areas, and then you'll get to Necrom. No,
yeah. Well, the thing that they mentioned towards the end, with the mention that the free trial period will basically include all the expansions up to current before Necrom, is that the game doesn't really have much level gating, was what they were saying.
Okay.
And so I'm assuming if they continue to go with that philosophy, then in theory you should be able to access Necrom right away.
Okay. I mean, that is good then. Okay. I think this is going to really entice somebody who hasn't been interested in ESO already into diving in. This is going to be something that will keep people who are already invested to stay. I think that's all this is at this point.
I think really the only thought I have is just best of luck to them with Elder Scrolls Online. Clearly, the game must be somewhat sustainable because just they were producing more expansions for it and everything. So yeah, here's to hoping Necrom is just more success for them. But yeah, if Bethesda and Microsoft are hoping for like a magic upswell in subscriber numbers for the ESO Premium service, then they might be deluding themselves.
I don't think they're going to get new people. I think they will eventually... I think essentially they will just get the same people that are there and maybe try and get more money out of them at this point. So let's get into the final game that was shown off, and that was Redfall. Redfall was announced last year, I think, in a conference, and then they've been showing some new gameplay here and there. The surprise that I got out of it was in the previous trailer that was in it was E3, correct? The previous trailer?
Yeah, either that or it was in one of the Microsoft showcases.
Right. So in that showcase, it made it seem like a Left 4 Dead with vampires. But now that they're showing off more, I think you said it best on the stream, it's really Far Cry with some vampires in it, correct?
Yeah. Late last 2022, after some people were just like making the criticism of, oh, this just looks like Left 4 Dead but with vampires instead of zombies, the team over at Arcane Austin had to put like a giant PR blast and say, hey, we're seeing a lot of people trying to compare this for Left 4 Dead, but we assure you, it's not Left 4 Dead. This game is more exploration focused, but with playing the game co-op being more fun. So we'd like to have people think of it more similar to Far Cry, where you're going to be focused on exploring places, trying to liberate some of the safe houses from vampires and stuff like that. And when they had made that sort of distinction last year, it got me real curious. I was like, okay, the idea of a sort of a co-op experience that's like Far Cry but less lazy, because if you've played the co-op mode in like Far Cry and everything, it's just really lazy. It's just kind of like, all right, your friend came in, but your friend is essentially a clone of the main character, and their progress doesn't transfer out, and that's it.
Here is my thoughts on it right now. Okay, I'm definitely interested. It actually looks really good. I like the atmosphere that it has, and the gameplay looks really good as well on that. I guess the question is this better co-op, or can I have fun playing single player? Because it looks to me at this point, and it may not be true, but it looks to me at this point that this is very focused on multiplayer. Like, they want you to play in a group. So
yeah. The product page for Redfall does mention that the game is still 100% playable single player if you choose to just go completely single player. But yeah, the way how this particular gameplay trailer was kind of put together, it definitely kind of emphasizes the best way to play this game is with all of your friends.
So that's the best way to play it? basically.
At least that's what it felt like with just how this gameplay trailer focused on just kind of the synergy between all the characters and everything. Like one character could set up like a springboard tower where you would jump high in the air. So the character that has like expertise in explosives could basically, while in the air, throw down an explosive, and then you have like one of the other characters hiding in like a sniper tower, cloaked and invisible, picking off some of the vampires at distance. And then you had like one of the other characters kind of using their robot drone to distract enemies and just have the drone take the heat while the team just kind of focuses fire on some of the enemies and stuff like that. So it definitely had a vibe of, hey, sure, you can probably play the single player, but you want all these crazy hype moments that we're showing off right now, you better try to find some friends and get together on this.
Yeah, I get it, but I really prefer to play single player, and I was really looking forward to getting into that. I'll definitely play with you when you get it as well, but I was more interested in single player. But it is a Game Pass game. I will definitely check it out. And what they were showing off is really cool as well. There are skill trees involved in the game. There are randomized dungeons as well, to a certain extent, in the game as well. Like, the things that they do and they show in the game make it really interesting, and something I would definitely want to check out. I think if everything goes well, this could be one of the first hits for Xbox this generation at this point.
Especially if it does turn out to be as good as this gameplay deep dive trailer seems. Yeah, this could be a very, very hot and talked about game for the Xbox consoles and everything. I think really where my curiosity is the fact that the game will also be sold on the Epic Game Store and Steam.
Mm-hmm.
I do wonder if those platforms will be able to have cross-lobby compatibility with the Xbox and Windows Store purchasers of the game, because it would be a real fucking shame if the lobbies for the Steam version, the Epic Store version, and the Windows Store Xbox versions, if you all had 3 separate lobby populations. I think it would be an absolute travesty.
That would be really bad, and that would be terrible. Ugh. That's one of the problems that Darktide has, amongst other things, of course. But that's one of the problems that Darktide has.
Yeah, and the reason that sort of came to mind was I was reminded that Killer Instinct still has that problem with the Steam version. That the Steam version, the only population that you can play with is literally other Steam players, whereas with the Xbox, and Microsoft Store version, you can play with the Microsoft and Xbox population, which is just exponentially larger than the Steam population.
We definitely got to find out if that is cross-compat or like cross-play, because if it's not, God, that would be awful. That would be terrible. Anyway. Okay. That is all that was announced on this developer direct. Again, change the damn name, please. This is terrible. Do you like the name? I guess I should ask you that.
It just seems like a lazy attempt at kind of cashing in on the simplicity of the Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
So, I get it. Sure, you're trying to condense it down. Sure, that's neat and all, but yeah, I think really it's just like, yeah, you guys could come up with your own sort of snappy original name, maybe.
Yeah, call it the Money Hat Express. Go ahead, just dive right into the memes. But anyway, for what it was solid. I am still disappointed that they didn't show much on Forza. Hi-Fi Rush looks interesting. I will definitely check that out. And Redfall, I think, is the one that needed to show off pretty well, and it did. And I'm actually interested in Redfall. Other than that, it was fine. It was good enough, I guess. But it's not something that I look at and go, oh, okay, Xbox is going to have a good year. I'm still looking at it and going, okay, you got something, but what else you got at this point? And it would really be a shame if they don't show something else off until June. Because if that's the case, and they're loading everything up for the fall, I don't think that would be a smart idea on their end.
Yeah, if they stack up way too many titles towards the end of this year, then you might have a prisoner's dilemma with all the games competing against each other. And I mean, we've seen how well that ends up panning out. What happened with I think it was Battlefield 5 and Titanfall 2, where you just had where you had just EA had pushed out both games, and then it was just like, hey, don't buy Call of Duty, buy Battlefield. Oh yeah, we've also got this Titanfall thing too. It's pretty cool. And then of course, like months later, oh yeah, we're kind of disappointed with the sales of Titanfall 2. They weren't that good. It's just like, guys, you set up your own prisoner's dilemma. You have two of your own games trying to stab each other for sales.
Xbox needs to have more, I think, to announce before E3. Like, I think we just said it too. If they wait until the fall to release all their big guns, I don't think that's going to work out very well for them. Do we still have a solid date for Starfield?
No, just supposedly the rumor is that most of the work is done, that it's just now kind of polish and cleanup time for it. So yeah, there's no telling, to be honest.
Yeah, so they still have the date being 2023 for Starfield. They need something, and this was good, but they need something to have people comfortable with either purchasing an Xbox or being comfortable with their purchase at this point, because it's looking like it's not looking very good in this. But it was a fine Direct. I would have thought they would probably have more to show, but they didn't. But okay, that's fine.
I think really the only thoughts that I have are just definitely looking forward to Redfall the most out of the presentation, mostly because I just like co-op games. I think co-op games are a blast. Looking forward to that, and since I'm on Game Pass, I'll be able to check it out for free, and if it's something that isn't for me, then no harm, no foul. I didn't spend any money on it because it was on Game Pass. The Elder Scrolls thing, maybe I might explore reinstalling Elder Scrolls Online, just for the sake of giving it another look for the podcast. Don't really know how I feel about it, but we'll see. Forza, I'm a bit skeptical on. I definitely hope that they've got more to talk about, because it was a bit disappointing with them going, oh hey, look, graphics, and oh yeah, we've got a very comprehensive single player mode, but we don't have much to show on how that single player mode works, so you're going to have to trust us.
Yeah, like that really bugs me at this point. Like, you've had your game delayed for so long now. At this point, show it. I would have not shown anything until you were ready to show that. Because at this point, like I said when we talked about it, yes, we know your game is going to be beautiful. Yes, we know you're going to go with the detail, the sound, and the visuals. We know that at this point. We are not worried about that. We're worried about the gameplay. And my thought process would have been, don't show them until we have that ready. And the fact that they showed it without that ready makes me worried at this point. That is it for this video for Capital Games. Unless there's a news story that comes up on Thursday, we should be coming back at you with the weekly dividend on Friday. So look forward to that. It's my turn to pick the game this week, isn't it?
Yeah, okay. Since I picked last week.
All right. Well, let's see what we can get here. All right, so this is it for Capital Games. I am The Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
And we will talk to you next time. Bye. Thank you for checking out Capital Games, where we cover the business side of the video game industry. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoyed the video. You can also subscribe to the podcast if you prefer to have it on your podcast feed. And check us out on our socials and email us if you have a question, comment, or suggestion. Thank you for watching and listening. We'll hear from you next time.